Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson. Tonight, in less than an hour, Joe Biden begins his annual State of the Union address. Imagine if he dared to be honest about it. What would he say? What is the state of our union tonight? Well, in a word, it is fragile, very fragile. The United States is poorer, it's more fearful, it's far less free than it was when Joe Biden became the president just 13 months ago. Joe Biden inherited a divided country, a very divided country, and then he proceeded to make it much angrier. History will judge Joe Biden for that. But in the meantime, voters already are. Biden's poll numbers have dropped to the point that it's impossible to explain them without admitting that you're at fault. It's not just unvaxxed Confederate QAnon seditionists who disapprove of Joe Biden at this point, much as the White House suggests otherwise. It's pretty much everyone who lives here, apart from the bitter 50-something-year-old wives of private equity barons. They're skiing in Aspen right now, and they still love Biden. But everyone else has second thoughts, and that would include many Americans who once supported Joe Biden. It would include Hispanic voters, independent voters, an awful lot of black men. At this point, disliking Joe Biden, disapproving of his performance, may be the single thing that unites this country. It is a rainbow coalition of disdain. So that's what Biden is up against tonight. The question is, how does he explain his failures? And the answer is mostly, he doesn't. Biden is guaranteed to make sympathetic noises about inflation and gas prices. He has no choice but to do that. But he also has no answers. He cannot fix the problems that he has caused. Thankfully, from his perspective, and we're preparing you, this is very cynical, Biden now has a war to talk about. And of course, that's what he will do tonight. The White House understands the invasion of Ukraine is a chance to change the subject. It is what Bloomberg News described today as a political reset. So forget what Biden did to your country and your economy and your children's school. Joe Biden is Winston Churchill now. And by the way, Vladimir Putin is the one who's brain damaged. The CIA can prove it. We're about to hear a lot of that. How much of it can you believe? Well, some of it. Some of it is true. Vladimir Putin really did invade Ukraine. That really is bad. They're not just saying it. Putin's invasion destabilizes Europe. Thanks to the recklessness of our leaders, we could wind up at war with Russia, and that would be a legitimate disaster no matter what the outcome might be. So that's what we know for certain. But beyond that, in the realm of any other detail, our advice is be very wary of what you hear. There is an awful lot of lying going on, an unprecedented amount of lying. This war is a humanitarian tragedy. That we know. But the war is also a political event that various groups, including in this country, are leveraging feverishly in the hope of gaining more power for themselves. That is real. So to gain that power, they're manipulating you, the consumer of news, and they're doing it in ways that are often hidden and therefore highly insidious, and we would say immoral. Much of the information about the war that you're ingesting uncritically has in fact been curated by the tech monopolies and, yes, by the intel agencies by the time it reaches your iPhone. Some of that information, to restate, is entirely real. Some of it is fake. So the question is, how do you know the difference? How do you know when you're being manipulated, as you certainly are? Well, in our case, we always start with retired Colonel Doug Macgregor. Unlike so many of the TV generals you see all day long, Macgregor is not angling for a board seat at Raytheon. Unlike so many of the so-called reporters you see on television, he is not acting secretly as a flack for Lloyd Austin at the Pentagon. No, Doug Macgregor is an honest man.